Archaeologists say writings on an ancient tablet confirmed there was a global flood and an ark that carried animals. A recently deciphered 4,000-year-old clay tablet from ancient Mesopotamia reveals striking similarities to the Bible story of Noah. It includes a massive flood that destroys the earth and instructions that animals should be loaded onto the craft two by two. The tablet deciphers from scripture in its description of the ark. It gives instructions for building a giant round vessel 2/3 the size of a soccer field. In the book of Genesis, God commands Noah to build a longer vessel, which isn't round. Experts say other ancient civilizations tell a version of Noah's story that has been adapted to their own cultures.
It's some bullshit.
Did you notice how this news reporter says that the story is other cultures adapted the Noah story to fit their own culture? Or is it really the other way around? When Irvin Finkel first discovered this tablet, and then it's in the British Museum right now, of course, many people immediately go to the Noah's Ark story because it is the most popular and most well-known story, because it is the story that has been passed around by the Jewish population, the Christian population, and the Islamic population. So the overwhelming majority of people are going to refer to the Noah story because this is the one that they are most familiar with. What they are unfamiliar with, and what Irvin Finkel was familiar with, is the fact of the Mesopotamian story of the Epic of Gilgamesh, and how Utnapishtim was told by a heavenly being, an Anunnaki more than likely, to build this boat because a great deluge was coming, and he is to put all the seeds of every animal on there. Now, the difference in the Enuma Elish, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, is that they don't describe what the boat looked like. So, therefore, you don't have a description as far as the reading is concerned. But it is most likely that the writers of the Babylonian story was not so much concerned about what the ship looked like in the first writing, or the Sumerians or Akkadians weren't so concerned about that. But evidently, by the time we get to the Babylonians, we get a definition of what the boat actually looked like. It is more than likely that under the Babylonian captivity, that this story was told to the people in captivity. As a matter of fact, there are many things from the Babylonian, Akkadian, Sumerian story that are very similar to what you have in your Old Testament. And that is because this would have been what the Northern Israelite kingdom, as well as the Southern Judah's kingdom, would have been forced to learn and know about. And so when Ezra took charge of the people of Israel after the Babylonian captivity, these stories were changed to fit into their narrative, not the other way around. Because if we did take the same idea of the majority of the people believing one thing and then referencing it, the majority of the people in Mesopotamia understood and knew the Atrahasis, they knew the Gilgamesh story, they knew Utnapishtim story. And so the Israelite people would have taken that story and made it their own, as part of their own history and as part of their own belief system, in order to create their own propaganda. This story should not be relatable to the Noah story right off the bat, simply because it would actually invalidate the Bible as being inerrant. It would suggest that the Bible, designing the boat differently instead of a circle, is incorrect if the stone inscriptions are older than the Bible. You see, the Bible could not have, the Old Testament could not have been written no earlier than the 700s BCE. But with this stone tablet being dated back to 4,000 years old, means that it was written 2000 BCE. This would be during the Sumerians, Akkadians time frame, and then passed along through the Assyrians and down to the Babylonians, and now into the Israelite story when you follow these breadcrumbs of time. So therefore, it is the Israelites who copied the Babylonian story of a worldwide flood and made it their own instead of the way that this gentleman was trying to portray it. Now, some are going to ask in the comments, well, do you believe a flood ever happened, since there are over 250 different flood myths around the world? I do not think that the worldwide flood actually is a myth. It is a myth to the extent that the Bible explains it, that it covered every landmass, that there was no land to be seen. That is a virtual impossibility, as there is not enough water on the planet, below the planet, within the planet, that would be able to cover the heights of Everest. And not just the height of Everest, but 18 feet higher than Everest. That a flood of that proportion would have killed every animal in the waters, because the mixture of freshwater and seawater would have devastated that ecology, right? So there will be no freshwater animals alive. There may possibly be some seawater animals. Let me take that back a little bit. May possibly be some seawater, as evidenced by the Black Sea flood that happened about 8,000 years ago. The Black Sea flood, when a natural ice barrier melted rapidly over a year's time frame, actually, which increased the size of the Black Sea and allowed for thousands and upon millions of gallons of fresh water. Where the Black Sea was freshwater, allowed millions of gallons of seawater, salt water, to go into the Black Sea. And what we have found in the Black Sea is townships under the water, but we've also found the fossilized bones of freshwater animals. So all the freshwater animals died. The sea, only the salt water animals survived. So to take that back and say, I would have to say all freshwater animals would be dead. There would be no freshwater animals today. There would all only be saltwater animals in the oceans. But all of the trees and everything else would have been devastated. When Noah's Ark would have landed, wherever it landed, there would not have been any trees that were blossoming so that this dove can bring back a branch. That would not have been possible, because it would not have been there. So, do I think at the end of the Younger Dryas period, the last ice age, that, in my opinion, a solar flare, solar activity, is what caused the flash flooding and sea levels rising 400 feet? Sea levels rising 400 feet would not cover every inch of ground on the planet, but it would greatly change the world, in the fact that most people live coastal, and so therefore most societies would have suffered. Most societies that were below sea level, further inland, would have suffered, and therefore human history or human life would have to restart from whatever level of civilization that they were at the time. And then each one of those stories talks about some being, some person, some individual coming to restart their civilization. Most of them do speak of getting on a boat and saving some animals and some people. There are a few, like the Inca story, that talks about them going up to the highest mountain peak and being able to survive. And this is like a whole village of people going to the highest mountain peak with their animals and being able to survive, indicating that there was only a rise of 400 feet, not a complete covering of the earth. But people tell these stories in order to fit their narrative, so that their story can seem like the correct story. It is a form of propaganda. So this engraving actually proves and demonstrates that the Noah story is a copy of the original Sumerian Akkadian story. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.